Fieldman is a custom software application written specifically for Design Electric and Microsoft Access. It allows a foreman to quickly and accurately enter the field payroll, track production by keeping count of the items installed, and helps a foreman plan ahead for several weeks. This program is integrated with our Sage accounting system. Part 1. Why are we doing this? Using Fieldman is part of Design Electric's effort to grow the company and to make it more lean and productive. We have 4 goals in mind. First is we want to deliver great projects. It's essential that our customers are delighted with our work. Repeat customers have sustained our company during tough economic times. Number 2, we want to make a profit. We want the entire team at Design Electric to manage to margin. Everyone should be looking for ways to eliminate waste and increase profitability. This should be true whether you're a new apprentice, if you're working in accounting, or if you're a foreman, project manager, or estimator. Everyone can help. Design Electric spends about $10 million a year on labor cost. What if we're able to save just 5%? That amounts to over $500,000 in added profit. Likewise, we spend about $10 million a year on material. Can we save even 3% and add another $300,000 profit for the company? Number 3, generate cash. We have to get work and we have to do work. It's much like a factory with raw materials coming in the door and finished products leaving the door. A steady flow will keep the company healthy. Number 4, closely tied to number 2, we want to reward our team members. The more profit we make, the more we can share. Fieldman is a core basis for tracking production, which allows us to give monthly incentive bonuses to those who are beating the budgeted labor hours and rate. Well, what is needed to accomplish these goals? Well, first, we have to be great planners. Projects that are able to beat the labor budget are being managed by foremen who consistently look ahead several weeks, several months, or even years. Using the short interval planner tool with Fieldman to forecast manpower makes this a lot easier. Additionally, using the purchasing department to get the right material at the right time, at the right place, and delivered to the right location requires great planners and will drastically improve our profitability. Number 2, we need to make constant improvements. Companies like Google and Amazon are very successful because they are always making improvements in their processes. Trying new, inventive ways to increase productivity is essential to survive. Number 3, consistent execution. As we develop lean procedures and eliminate waste, we want everyone at the company to take advantage of the new processes. As we outline the best practices to deliver great, profitable projects, we want everyone to deeply understand it and to follow it. Number 4, building talent. We need to continually hire and train future electricians in-house. Starting with the ELIP program, which is the Electrical Learning and Indoctrination Program, we are bringing in a constant flow of new apprentices, training them to be journeyman electricians, then lead men, and eventually foremen. We also need to work with our current employees to help them continually grow in the electrical field. The timekeeping portion of Fieldman is very obvious. We all want to get paid for the hours we work. But what about the production tracking and short interval planning? Why is this necessary? Well, it's smart. Having specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goals will improve labor production. Increasing labor by even a small percent could result in huge margin gains. As mentioned earlier, Design Electric spends about $10 million a year in labor. Just a 5% increase could amount to a $500,000 margin gain. To make improvements, you must keep score. If you're not keeping score, you're just practicing. Fieldman allows you to quickly see the labor budget versus the cost early on. Are you winning or are you losing? The project foreman needs to know if they're beating the budgeted estimate or if they're losing. Knowing this early on allows you to make changes to ensure a win. Are there unplanned changes affecting your project? Is the general contractor sequencing the project flow correctly? Is everyone on your crew productive? Do you have the right material and tools at the right place at the right time? Are you planning your work and working your plan? In Fieldman, the dashboard gives the foreman instant feedback on the project's production. After picking the week ending date, the graph on the right will recalculate, and this can take about 15 seconds. The blue column on the left represents the total hours budgeted for the project. This is straight out of our estimating program, AccuBid. The next red column shows the hours used to date. The green column indicates the hours earned. Hours earned is a calculation based upon the quantities of material installed multiplied by the budgeted labor rate, which is a bit complicated. For example, if you reported installing 10 light fixtures and the estimated budget is 1 hour per fixture, you would have earned 10 hours. If you were able to install those 10 fixtures in only 8 hours, you would have beaten the estimate by 2 hours, or 20%. The green bar would be higher than the red bar because you earned hours is more than your used hours. This is a quick visual for you to know that across the entire project, you're winning. The black column shows the projected hours at completion based upon your current production rates. If it took you 12 hours to install those 10 fixtures, then you would have gone over the budget by 2 hours or 20%. In this case, the red bar, the hours used, would be higher than the green bar, hours earned. On the left side of the screen, there's even more detail. You can sort by area or division, such as raceway or wire, and then by specific cost codes. If an item is highlighted in yellow, it means that we are exceeding the budgeted hours by 10% or more. This should be a red flag to the foreman and project manager that something is wrong, and we should quickly make changes or improvements. It could be that the crew doesn't have the material staged properly, or something is impeding their productivity. It should spur a conversation right away because the downward trend is likely to continue. The items highlighted in green are the ones where we have a production gain of 10% or more, which is a wonderful thing to see. This is an opportunity to congratulate the crew. The number at the bottom of the screen shows the total hours gained or lost for the entire project. As you enter your crew time every day, which is very important to do it every day, you'll get great visibility into the project's labor production. This is a large step to protect our projects from margin fade. This concludes the first part of the Fieldman training. What's next? Section 2 will learn how to enter your crew's time quickly and effortlessly. Section 3 will learn how to enter production quantities. And Section 4 will make a short interval plan. This video will show you how to enter your crew's time in Fieldman. I suggest that you have the Fieldman program up and running, maybe on your laptop, so you can pause the video and try it as you go along. I can't emphasize it enough that it's best practice to enter time daily. It takes only about 10 minutes, and if you wait until the end of the week, it can be very difficult to remember how to use the program. But if you make entries daily, you'll get the hang of it faster, and the data will be more accurate. After opening Fieldman, first select the job that you want to enter time on. This is on the far right tab. You should only see the jobs that are assigned to you. If your job does not appear in the drop-down list, you'll need to contact your project manager so permissions can be assigned. The next time you open Fieldman, the job that you selected previously will open by default. It may take up to 15 seconds or so for Fieldman to load everything, so just wait for the hourglass. It's a lot of data being imported. Next, select the area that your crew is working on. Click on the small arrow under Extra Area, and you should see all the areas set up for your project. By selecting just one area, it will help reduce the amount of choices you have for entering time, which will make things easier and less confusing. Now you need to select your crew. If you haven't assembled a crew yet, that's okay. We'll show you how to do that. First, click the Configure Crew button. Since the crew list is blank, we'll need to create a new crew. You can create as many crews as you like. Some like to have a pipe crew and a wire crew. You might have a crew for the first floor and another crew for the second floor. Anytime you have several people that will be working on similar tasks or in certain areas, it makes sense to put them in a particular crew. Not only will the crews be more productive by repeating similar tasks, it will make your life easier when you enter their time. So let's make a crew. Click on the New Crew button. Now let's give your crew a name. It can be anything, such as pipe crew or first floor crew, whatever makes sense to you. Type the name of the crew in the box. Now click the Save New Crew box. The crew name here is C&D crew, likely named after areas of the building. First, select the crew by clicking on the small arrow below the Select Crew box. Now we will search for an employee to add them. In the box Name, type a portion of the person's first or last name. It will have to be a person's real first name. Some people use their middle name or nickname. It would have to be the one that's used in payroll. In this case, we could type Ed, and it would give us a list of employees that have those letters in their first or last name. The more specific you are, the smaller the list will be. In this case, we get Edmund, we get Reed, and Ted, and several others that have ED in their name. Smith or Shiflett would likely give you many to choose from, but this can be helpful if you're not sure how to spell the person's name. So we have typed Ed, and we see that Ed's name popped up in the box below. Note that it shows us the current job that Ed's working on, which is 15 EC 0104. If we add Ed to our job and crew, he will automatically be removed from his previous job and crew. This can be troublesome if Ed works on many different jobs throughout the week. Another foreman may add Ed to his crew and he'll disappear from your crew. Just something to keep in mind if your crew changes all of a sudden. Now, to add Ed to our crew, just double-click on his name and he will move from the left pane to the right pane, which means that he is now on the crew that you built. You can also use the arrow buttons to move them on and off your crew. If you want to remove someone from your crew, double-click on their name in the right pane. You can also use the arrow buttons to move them on or off your crew. Now we have our crew built and we're ready to enter time. Just a side note, we're using slides from a couple of different jobs for demonstration purposes. So if you notice the job name changes or the crew name changes from slide to slide, just please understand that. Now this may be the most difficult part to understand of the program. There is an important difference between crew time and employee time. There are two separate tabs. When using the crew time, you will enter the amount of time for the same cost code for many people. The entire crew that you selected. This is very fast. When using the employee tab, you are entering time for just one person. This is slow, but it has a purpose, as we'll see. Okay, here we go. First, select your crew. Next, select the area that the crew is working in. You'll notice that the list of available work codes will shrink to the codes that are valid for that area only. This helps prevent entry errors. You can also narrow the choice by division. For example, Division 01 is Raceway. If your crew is working in several areas but only on Raceway, this option may be better. The idea is to reduce the sometimes overwhelming number of work codes to something that's more manageable. Number 3, select the correct date using the arrows. Another option is to click inside that date box and a small calendar box will appear. Click on that calendar and you can pick the date for when the work was performed. Alright, number 4, make sure that you're on the Crew Time tab. That's very important. Remember, there's two different tabs. You want to be on the Crew Time tab. And number 5, Click on the box that corresponds to the appropriate job code. Then we want to enter in the number of hours worked and then press the enter key. That's something special about Microsoft Access. You have to hit the enter key, then the data is entered. In this case, our crew worked 4 hours on overhead branch and 4 hours on light fixtures. Now let's see what happened. Click on the Daily tab to see the hours we just entered for all the employees. Remember, we were on the Crew tab before. And bam, like that, you've entered time for 5 people across 2 cost codes. This can save you a lot of time for entering hours for many employees. An employee's hours will appear for each cost code. If an employee worked in 2 different cost codes, then their name will appear twice in the list. Many times, individuals on your crew may not have worked the same hours, or they may have worked on a different cost code from the rest of the crew. That's okay, because we can easily edit that in the Employee tab. What if Johnny worked 5 hours on this cost code and everyone else worked only 4 hours? No problem. To adjust an individual employee's hours, first find the row of the appropriate cost code and click in the hours box. Type in the number of hours worked and then press the enter key. This is very important. Again, in Microsoft Access, you have to hit the enter key. You can also change the area or cost code by clicking in the small drop-down area and making another selection. A good strategy is to use the crew time to get the majority of the crew's time in, and then go back and use the Employee tab to make minor changes. Well, what if someone worked overtime or wants paid time off? Let's take a look. To change the pay type, click the drop-down arrow and select the correct pay type. If the entire crew worked overtime, or if it should be holiday pay, it can be selected back on the Crew Time tab. This will change it for everyone. What is that pay ID NPT? Well, it's very helpful. Let's take a closer look. NPT stands for non-paid time. Why would I enter hours for that if the employee didn't show up? There is a reason. Later on, you'll see some reports such as timesheets. In order to help you make sure everyone's time is correct, these reports will highlight a person's hours if it totals over 40 hours per week or if it is less than 40 hours. Non-paid time is just a bookmark, so you know that the person is lacking hours for the week. They will not get paid for non-paid time. It only helps you know that everything is entered correctly and totals correctly. Let's take a look. After you enter some hours for non-paid time, a box should appear that will allow you to enter more information. If it does not appear, go back and to the pay type and select non-paid time again. There are 2 types of non-paid time, authorized and non-authorized. Authorized is normally when someone asks for time off for a doctor's appointment or something similar. Unauthorized is used when a person just doesn't show up or leaves early or comes in late. In the note box, you can describe the details. This can be extremely valuable when needing to document an employee that missed time often or says that he wasn't paid for the hours he worked. These records stay in Fieldman, and you can go back and look this up anytime. There's another place that you can add notes even if an employee doesn't miss any time. The green End button brings up a box where you can enter a note about the employee for that day. We made a note that documented that Johnny left early for a dentist appointment. This note field can be used for anything. Documentation is good. It can pay off later. You can delete the note by clicking the red box. When you're done typing, click Save Note and you'll get a message that it was indeed saved. Next, what if you have a guest star employee that you need to add some time in for? You can add employee time on the fly by clicking this button. But first make sure that you are in the Employee Time tab, not the Crew Time tab. You'll see this bar pop up near the top of your screen. First, select the employee from the drop-down list. This list comes from payroll, so it has all the current employees in it. The job number should be pre-filled. You can select a crew, but it's not necessary. You must select an area and then a cost code. The labor category and pay ID type can be changed if needed. Enter the hours worked and the date worked, and remember, you got to hit the enter key and then click Save. The time will then appear on the home screen just as the other time entries methods did. You can also go back and make changes to the area, cost code, hours, pay ID, and date if needed. If you need to add more hours for the same employee, you can click the green plus symbol and you'll get the same entry block, except it will pre-fill with the employee and work code. Now that we have all the time entered, we can see the timesheets to verify that everything looks good. We can view the time by the day or by the week. When you choose the weekly time report, you'll need to enter the week ending date, which is the Sunday after the work week. Even though the week starting date will appear, you cannot make an entry there. It's for your information only. It pre-fills with the previous Monday's date. This calendar button will help you select the correct date. So here's the daily time report. It looks like everything is good. Each employee has 8 hours. Here's the weekly report. Looks like everyone has 40 hours, the work areas are correct, and the work codes are correct. These are things you can check for, and if needed, you can go back and make corrections in Fieldman. If the entire crew needs a correction, say for example, I entered the wrong work code, you can make the changes in the crew tab and it will change everyone in the crew. If you need to make a change to just one or a few people, then you can use the employee tab. So this concludes the time entry training. Next, we'll learn how to claim quantities. The timekeeping portion of Fieldman is very obvious. We all want to get paid for the hours we work. But what about the production tracking and short interval planning? Why is this necessary? Well, it's smart. Having specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goals will improve labor production. Increasing labor by even a small percent could result in huge margin gains. As mentioned earlier, Design Electric spends about $10 million a year in labor. Just a 5% increase could amount to a $500,000 margin gain. To make improvements, you must keep score. If you're not keeping score, you're just practicing. Fieldman allows you to quickly see the labor budget versus the cost early on. Are you winning or are you losing? Okay, let's claim some quantities. Click on the Quantity Tracking tab, then click on Claim Quantities. First, click the New Production Week button. If your job started a while ago and this is the first time claiming quantities, you'll have to click this button several times until the current week ending date correctly appears. Next, select the area. Just as in Time Entry module, this helps reduce the choices and narrows down the selection to prevent bad entries and to make it easier. You'll see how the number of choices quickly went from a page full to only 5 choices. You can narrow the list down even further by selecting the division, such as O1 for Raceway, or select the cost code. Just as in the Time Entry module, you may choose to leave the area blank, which will include all areas, and narrow the list down by work code, such as this. Notice I have all my branch Raceway cost codes for all 6 areas for this project to choose from. This makes entry much easier. Now that we have our list of available entries to a manageable size, let's make some entries. First, click in a yellow box adjacent to the item that you want to enter quantities for. A data box will pop up that allows entry for each day of the production week. Next, enter in daily values for the corresponding days, and then hit enter. Quantities equal to or below the budgeted amount will remain in a blue font. Quantities above the budgeted amount will appear in a red font. This is an alert that something is wrong and should be discussed with the project manager and estimator. The sum of the quantities for the week will appear in this column. As you enter quantities, the percentage complete will increase. If you need to correct a quantity, you can enter a negative amount to reduce the total quantity installed. When the total budgeted quantity and the total job-to-date installed quantity are equal, the percentage complete will become 100%. Once you have all your quantities entered, you can see how your job production looks. Click on the X at the top right of the screen to close out the production tracking window. Next, click on the Dashboard tab. When the Dashboard tab is first loaded, it may not have the most current week shown. Select the Week Ending Date drop-down box and select the week you want to see. This feature allows you to go back and look at historical data week by week. It's very useful. It does take about 15 seconds for the data to refresh and total up. You'll notice that the total hours change week by week. This dashboard report and graph is all based upon hours. Let's take a closer look at what these hours mean. The blue column on the left represents the total hours budgeted for the project. This is straight out of our estimating program, AccuBid. The next red column shows the hours used to date. The green column indicates the hours earned. Hours earned is a calculation based upon the quantities of material installed multiplied by the budgeted labor rate. For example, if you reported installing 10 light fixtures and the estimated budget is 1 hour per fixture, you would have earned 10 hours. Now, if you are able to install those 10 fixtures in only 8 hours, you would have beaten the estimate by 2 hours or 20%. The green bar would be higher than the red bar because your earned hours is more than your used hours. This is a quick visual for you to know that across the entire project you are winning. The black column shows the projected hours at completion based upon your current production rates. If it took you 12 hours to install those 10 fixtures, then you would have gone over the budgeted hours by 2 hours or 20%. In this case, the red bar, the hours used, would be higher than the green bar, hours earned. On the left side of the screen, there is more detail. You can sort by area, division, such as raceway or wire, and by specific cost codes. If a line item is highlighted in yellow, it means that we are exceeding the budgeted hours by 10% or more. This should be a red flag to the foreman and to the project manager that something is wrong and we should quickly make changes or improvements. It could be that the crew doesn't have the material staged properly, or something is impeding their productivity. It should spur a conversation right away because a downward trend is likely to continue. The items highlighted in green are the ones where we have production gains of 10% or more, which is a wonderful thing to see. That's an opportunity to congratulate the crew. The number at the bottom of the screen shows the total hours gained or lost for the entire project. You can use the filters at the top of the page to narrow down the report by area, division, cost code, or fade gain. As you enter your time every day, and again it's important that you do this every day, you'll have great visibility into the project's labor production. This is a large step to protect our projects from margin fade. Again, this report only shows the hours. If you want to see the actual production units and rates, there's a report that shows you this in great detail. To see the Field Labor Report, click on the blue Field Labor Report button near the top left. Here's the Field Labor Report. There are 4 columns. The first column is the labor hours, much like the report back on the dashboard. The second column shows quantities. For example, cost code 0110 is for feeder conduit. Note that the unit is in feet. We have 425 feet estimated, and all 425 feet has been installed. The third column shows the production rates. We estimated that we can install 3.05 feet of conduit per hour, but our crew was able to install 4.64 feet per hour. They installed 1.59 feet per hour more than the budget. That's a great thing to see. The last column shows the projected hours at completion. For the line item we were looking at earlier, we should finish it with a total of 92 hours instead of the estimated 139 hours. That's a great win. To see the other pages, click the arrow at the bottom of the screen. This is something you'll see consistently throughout Microsoft Access. The key is to keep tabs on the production. The entries must be accurate. If you see that we're falling behind the budget, it is good practice to take some time to figure out why and to try to fix it early on. This will keep your margin high and will result in a big win. This concludes the section on claiming quantities and production tracking. The next video is on short interval planning. Short interval planning. Why take time to do this? This tool is to help you plan your task for several weeks out. It'll show you if you have enough manpower to complete the task in the given time, or if you have too many people on the task. It shows you how much has been installed to date, and how much you have left to install by a given area or cost code. Using the planning tool will help you properly manage your manpower, which can often make or break the project budget. Let's take a look. We start by clicking on the Short Interval Planning tab. Then by clicking on the blue Short Interval Planning button at the top left. First, take a look at the SIP quantity week. It should be set to the week that you want to plan for. If it's not the correct week, use the blue buttons, the LW and NW buttons, to scroll to the correct week. It can take about 15 seconds for the program to create the new week. The next step is to enter your daily shift lengths. Your job may be working 4 10-hour days, or more commonly 5 8-hour days. After you click in the yellow box, you may have to use your backspace key or your delete key to get rid of the 0 that's already in there. Then a quick way to move through to the other boxes is to use your tab key, which will move your cursor to the right and highlight the number in the box and allow you to override it without having to use the backspace key. It speeds things up quite a bit. Next, we'll fill this in and see what happens. In the far right columns, we want to assign the number of people working on a task for this week. Now there's 2 ways we can do this. One, we could select one of our crews that we've already made, and it'll input the number of people from that crew into the boxes for us. It's very fast. If I select this crew, it has 4 people in it, so the box is filled with 4 people. The other way is to manually enter the numbers in the box. You can do this without selecting a crew to begin with, or you can overwrite what the crew pre-filled for you with your own numbers. Remember to use that tab key to speed up the entry. It'll move it right along for you. Just as in other parts of this program, you can use the filters at the top to work on just one area or cost code at a time. This helps reduce the number of choices and makes the entry much easier. Let's say that I need to get all these light fixtures installed by October the 1st. First, I make sure that I'm on the right week. and that I have my daily shift links entered. Next, I can pick my regular crew to see what it looks like. I have 4 people on my crew, so it says they should be able to install 121 fixtures in this week. That leaves 112 left to be installed. Well, this crew needs to be much bigger if I expect to finish during this week. But no worries, there's always plenty of qualified electricians around. I'll just add some more electricians. I'll try doubling the crew to 8, and let's see what happens. Okay, well 8 should definitely be enough people. Notice that we have 235 fixtures to install, and we should be able to install 243 in this week with 8 people. Now the only problem is that I'll bust my budgeted hours if I have this many people on this one task. I know this because there's a negative quantity shown in the quantity remaining box. Well, I'm feeling good about my crew and my production rate, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that we can beat the estimate. I'll put 8 people in for Monday and Tuesday and cut back to 7 people on Wednesday and Thursday. If the crew doesn't beat the estimate, we would likely have 5 fixtures left to install according to this. But if we plan well, if we have all the right material in the work area and we have the right tools on site, we'll likely get all the fixtures installed on time with this crew. As you go through the plan week, week by week for each task, you can be confident that you have the right crew size on your project, and everyone has a goal in mind of how many fixtures or feet of pipe they're expected to complete per day and per week. Your project will build up a history of production rates. So now you have the choice to allow this program to use the budgeted rates from our estimate, or once you build up that history, you can use your actual production rates. This is useful if your crew consistently beats the budget and you want to more accurately plan your crew size for the week. Just click this box and re-enter the number of people for the week so it can recalculate. Now that I have some data in the short interval planner, the graph on the opening page shows me my manpower needs for the weeks selected. If I had entered crews for other tasks in other areas, it will give me a grand total of the people that I need for the week. If you plan out 3 or 4 weeks ahead, you'll know exactly how many people you need over an extended period. If we can do this company-wide, we can plan ahead for manpower issues well in advance, which will help everyone. This sure beats having a manpower crisis at the last minute. There are some useful reports on the right side of the screen. The Look Ahead Production Report. This report will help you quickly see if hours and quantities were consistently turned in for each work code. This can be very helpful to figure out why a work code looks out of whack. For example, we have some work codes that have quantities installed, but no hours charged to this work code. That likely means that someone charged their hours to the wrong area and wrong work code. It needs to be corrected. Well, this concludes the last training video for Fieldman. Thank you so much for participating and using this tool.